Good morning and welcome to WinCAMS webinar number 12. Today we are focusing on the estimates, bids, and contracts module. Around here we call it the engineering module because it's commonly used by engineers. If you are interested in our other webinars, I record each of them and I put them on our YouTube channel called the WinCAMS channel and also onto our website on the videos section. So we have webinars about various subjects. If you want me to do a webinar about a subject, shoot me an email, ayren@cascadegovsoftware.com, and I will put it on the schedule and try to get it done. So today we are talking about the estimates, bids, and contracts module. The purpose of this module is basically we had engineers tell us for a long time that they wanted a standardized system that allows them to basically estimate a project, plan out a project, and estimate the quantities and the costs that are going to go into that project, and then make multiple different estimates for different ways of doing the project and different construction methods, different sizes, different whatever, and then work with contractors generally to solicit, to set up a bid, solicit contractor responses, and then award the contract, and then work what I call work the contract. Daily work journals, progress payments, delivery tickets, change orders as things go sideways, as they always do. So I'm just going to walk through that process now. If you want any more information about this module, or you already have this module and you would like personalized help with it, feel free to contact me. And if you have any questions or don't understand something that I'm doing today, you can enter into the chat to ask questions, or why does it work like that, or whatever. Okay, so let me switch my screen. Okay. So the estimates, bids, and contracts module is here. I refer to it again as the engineering module. It kind of goes in order. I'm going to be moving through in order, top to bottom, as we go through our agenda today. But the first thing on our agenda that is a critical piece that you're going to see going throughout the entire module are called SI numbers. Okay, so SI numbers are, what is it? There we go. SI numbers, oh shoot, I already have it. Hold on. So I have my system set to allow programs to open more than once. I don't want that. I actually already had SI numbers up. So SI numbers are, as I understand them, standardized construction codes that allow you to, there's a California standard set of construction codes. Anyone who's an engineer, a roads engineer type of person, or public works engineer in California should understand these. We do have automatic loads. If you go into posting, there's import SI numbers, and we have automatic lists of SI numbers for Washington, SI numbers for California, and then we also added these for our some of our facilities users asked for these. They're called master format numbers for commercial building design and construction. So if you use those, then you can have all of them. That's fine. But if you use those, then they're more like things about structures and things about buildings and bathrooms and framing and windows and all that stuff. What is more commonly used for is roads. So you can see here there's like flashing beacons and sewer things, fencing, barriers, flaggers, all those things, okay? And these are going to be the building blocks through which we build our estimate that then becomes our contract, okay? And each SI number has it has a description, and it has a unit of measure. How do we refer to it? You can categorize the SI number. You can tell us if it's a number of, you can give it a number of decimals. You can say that it's a standard estimate or a standard contract entry, meaning that when you create an estimate or you create a contract, it just will pop in this SI number. So a standard one might be liquidated damages or something like that, that you want to have as a line item on every contract, right? And whether it's subject to retention, and whether it's we allow you to change the description. So there are SI numbers that you can create any that you want in addition to these standard lists, but we can also you can say whether you're allowed to change the description, right? So if you check that box, then when you bring this SI number in, then you can type actually in the contract or into the estimate, right? And then each SI number has a history here, right? So we have a history. Let me turn off. I'm going to mute everyone. There we go. So we turn off we turn off. We keep a history of all the estimates that have used this SI number and what the estimated cost was. So we see that this particular project estimate said they were going to have 2 salvage roadside signs at $200. It looks like it was always $200. And then we also keep a contractor history of what the contractors bid for this SI number, right? So we see here that there was this bid. The low bid for this salvage roadside sign was $75. The high was $200, and it was awarded to the contract was awarded to the contractor that bid $200. So let's see if we can, all this salvage stuff. Let's see here. Remove concrete barrier. Guess we haven't used those. There we go. So here's remove unsound concrete. So we've had 3 estimates with unit cost $100, $110, and $110, and 1 contract where the low price was 75, the high price was 110, and we awarded it at 110. So it gives us this history so we can kind of get a sense of what the going rate for these things is. And that's one of the advantages of this module, is that in my experience, especially in like a public works department, everyone's doing this stuff. They're just doing it their own way. They're doing it in a Excel spreadsheet, or they're doing it, on their own, in their own style. And what this allows them to do is exchange information, copy from someone else's estimate, copy from a previous contract, see the history, regardless of which engineer did the job. Okay, so where we start is now we don't have to start with building an estimate, but I'm going to start with building an estimate. So you can skip over the estimate and skip over the bid process and skip over soliciting contractor responses and go straight to a contract. If you have something that's already ongoing, or you just don't want to use this system for the estimate, it's not required that you do the estimate. You can just go into the contract and hit plus. But I want to demonstrate the entire flow of the module, so I'm going to start from a project estimate. So a project estimate is here. And one interesting thing about this is that we did a little experiment in this module with what we call a tree view. You can turn it off, but we also have a directory, but we have this cool tree view that we actually considered putting it into other CAMS programs, where the directory basically does this, but when you go to the directory, you can't see the thing. If you go to the tree view, you can click on this one, and you can see it at the same time as you're looking at the tree view. So that's kind of cool. So the green ones, I believe, are official estimates, right? And so if I go down here, let's see. So here's a pavement rehabilitation. Okay. So we've got one official estimate that's green. a fiberized microsurfacing project construction estimate. Okay, so we set up the estimate. We can set up as many estimates as we want. I oftentimes, when I'm setting them up, I'm not an expert on road building or bridge building, so I usually say we're going to build a bike path, and we're going to set up the estimate in these different ways to, just very basic stuff. What happens if we make it 12 feet wide? What happens if we make it 14 feet wide? What happens if we put lights every 16th of a mile? What happens if we put benches every quarter mile? That kind of stuff. So so just looking at this is one that they did. So they said it's fiberized microsurfacing project construction estimate. And here is the contract. This isn't actually the contract. This is setting up for the contract. You can have multiple phases. Here, this is phase 1 general. There's only one phase in this one. And so they're saying these are the things that we think are going to go into this estimate, into this job. Okay, so we've got construction signs. And when you pick an SI number, it shows you the unit of measure, lump sum is what they're using. A traffic control system, lump sum. We need to reset 6 mailboxes, and we think that's going to be $325. And you notice there's a lookup here. And so when you use the lookup, it shows you the history of resetting mailboxes in your database. This is the history of what was estimated for resetting mailboxes, and this is the history of what contractors ended up bidding and getting accepted for resetting mailboxes. So you can use this to get a sense of what the heck does it cost to reset a mailbox. I honestly would have no idea. Is it $325 or $50? I don't know. Root barriers is measured in linear feet, and there's 670 linear feet. So what we're doing here, correct, Eric. So Eric asked, this tree view and stuff would be populated with your specific projects. You're absolutely right. This would come blank. The only thing that would be populated is that list of SI numbers. If you wanted to, you don't have to, but we have that ability to pull in the standard California or Washington SI numbers so that you don't have to build them, so you don't have to build this lookup here, right? Okay, so you would have nothing in here, and unless you, now if you were to ask us, and if you had, say, spreadsheets that you had all these, maybe, this is pretty specific, but it's not impossible that we could load this from a spreadsheet and say, here's your history of all of your projects, right, and your contracts, or some of them, so that you could get a start going. And you could also add historical stuff yourself. That's fine. So so the point is that you list out the parts and pieces of this job and what you think is going to happen, what you estimate is going to happen, so that you can, so this can be a nice tool for estimating, our bike path. So why don't we create one? So I hit plus up here, and let's see, do I need to pick a project? So let's see if there's one in here. Okay, so bike and safety improvement. Bike path. Okay, some flishing and flashing. And what I think it's doing is it may be adding, wow, it's working hard. Oh, wow. I'm not sure what I just did there. I'm wondering if these are standard units of measure. I'm sorry, standard SI numbers. Is that possible? I have never seen so many of them. Wow. Let's take a look. I'm intrigued now. So I'm going to double click on the SI number. So that'll bring up the SI numbers program. And I want to see irrigation crossing assembly. Yes. Okay, so this particular database has a whole bunch of standard estimate entries. Okay, that's their choice. I don't know why you do that, but they basically have all of these. That's why I've never seen it flish and flash so much, but basically 74 items, they have SI numbers have been designated as standard estimate entries for this particular by this particular client. I didn't go into detail on that. So we pre-fill the contract with this. You can of course get rid of them, but they all come in with quantity 0, and these are the things that, you know, clearing and grubbing makes sense. A lot of construction projects you're going to do clearing and grubbing, but I guess they're just saying, hey, these are all in here and you can just look through here, and maybe we don't need a stormwater annual report, so we get rid of it or whatever. Okay, so so that's fine. So I just go down here and I say, okay, so we need we're going to do a fiberized microsurfacing seal, and I've done my calculations, so I think we need 30 tons. And I say, well, I don't know how much a ton of fiberized microsurfacing seal costs, and my history shows me no costs either, so I'm just going to make up that it costs $100 a ton. Hopefully an engineer would have a real sense of that. Caltrans, Mark asks, how can Caltrans spec numbers be pulled in? You would, so if you want to, just like those, our facilities people gave us the master format numbers for building and construction. If you have another list of numbers, that's totally fine, and we can load those for you, and we can create another option in that import. Or if you want to make your own numbers, you can just hit plus in the SI numbers screen. But if you have hundreds or thousands of numbers that you use, or, you know, a couple times in the past, people have said, hey, the California SI numbers have been updated. Could here, and they send me the list, and then we get them updated. Now, I thought, honestly, I thought that that the California SI numbers, this 2,596 numbers were from Caltrans, but if they're not, if there's a separate numbering system that you use, we can certainly pull those in for you. Okay, so the person goes through and they either hit plus and add their SI numbers, or they just, if they have these standardized ones, okay, we're gonna pulverize and move existing road structure. There's going to be 250 cubic yards of that. And again, all of my estimates are 0, so I have no idea on a history. Hopefully I'm going to say $15 on that. And then you can move these around. These bid item numbers can allow you to move things around, and you can renumber them. So you can go in here and say, you know, I want to make 140, I want to make it, you know, 0015, right? It'll move it up there. And then if I want to, I can tell it to renumber the numbers, and it will spread them out by tens again. Okay. So I go through this and I put in, this is way more than I normally do in a demo, but here, you know, some things that I understand. Here's a 600-foot wood fence, and apparently all these estimates, every SI number I'm picking has no cost in this particular client's history. So I'm going to say wood fence costs, I think it's going to cost $80 per foot, per linear foot. That's right, Mark. You use the SI table as a start point, and the items are customizable. So you can see here that some of these are gray and some of them are white, right? So the white ones, if I double click on this and go to it, it says allow description change. So for whatever reason, this is this says minor concrete, and maybe I want to like be more specific with it, right? Minor concrete custom description. Okay, so on this particular estimate, I don't use minor concrete, I use my custom description. These ones, I can't type in there because that is just an 18-inch pipe gate valve. There's nothing more to say. I can make a comment on this particular line item, but that's fine. But the SI number is locked, and I can't modify the unit of measure or the description on a specific line item. I keep having all these, they have all these things with 0 unit cost. I don't know. Okay, temporary lighting system. Lump sum is going to be, I think it's going to be 4,000 or 1 at $4,000. Okay, so you can see here that I'm building my potential contract, $58,750. I can hit plus to create a new phase. And this is customizable. Their settings are to have it be their standard phase is phase 1 general, but I can create another phase if I want called, you know, preliminary engineering, construction engineering, right of way, those kinds of things. And so basically I build the contract, and let's see here. And then I've also got my other direct costs, and I can do the same thing. I can add bid item numbers as to my heart's content, and select SI numbers, and I've got my indirect costs, right? And so I'm just going to deal with the contract piece of it, but I can have other direct costs and indirect costs. Okay, so one thing, so now that I've maybe if I was really doing this, again, I've never seen somebody with 74 standardized items, but so usually I just do 3 or 4. But what I do is if you had these standardized items, you might say, okay, I want to get rid of this line because we're not going to do a federal training. We don't have to remove any culverts in this particular case, you know, and I'd clean up. So this particular client puts in 74, and they leave them in there, or they don't, or I don't know what their deal is. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to describe the funding sources that are going to pay for these things. So so you can have a different set of funding sources on every line if you want, or you can have the same funding sources for every line of a phase, and then have a different funding source for every line of a different phase, or you can do it however you want. But the main thing that I would do here is I'm going to say, okay, for this particular line, I'm going to go down here and say distribution, okay? And this says, okay, this line item has $3,750, and I have distributed to funding sources $0 of it. So let's see what we can find in the funding sources. So here are the funding sources that are entered for this particular client. Okay, so you could have like some sort of measure or a local bond, or Caltrans, or WashDOT, or I mean, honestly, like a Citizens Brigade, or whatever the heck you want. You got tribal funding down here. FEMA could be a funding source. Okay, so it doesn't matter to us, but let's say Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program is going to pay, and now they could pay all of it, 100%, or they could pay just for a quantity of the thing, or they could pay for a fixed cost, like we'll pay you know, $500. Okay, and so you can build multiple lines that so let's just say they're going to pay 40% of this, okay, of this line item, and then I'm going to create another line, and the rest of that it might be your county, it might be, how about we use tribal funding? That's a good one. Okay, and it defaults to the rest of it, 60%. Okay, so now you can see here that it turns blue, meaning we've got it completely set. We're in good shape. And you'll notice that our line here, 130, turns blue. Our number turns blue. And it's where it's red, that means we are not fully distributed. Okay, so now I don't want to do that on every line. Now, if I have a different distribution on every line, then I guess I do want to do that on every line. and that's fine. I've never seen someone that actually has like any substantial number of completely different distributions. What they might do is they might put them into multiple phases and then have a different funding source distribution for each phase of the project, right? Construction engineering, something like that, preliminary engineering, right of way. So what I'm going to do for this today is I'm going to say copy distribution. Okay, so it gives me this set of instructions. Enter the funding source distribution. We already did that. Highlight the distribution records to copy using the control and mouse, and then highlight the contract items to copy using the control and mouse, and then click the copy distribution again. Okay, so we keep this open. So now we say I want to highlight, I want to copy both of these lines from that distribution I just did, and I want to do it to this other one, this one that I did. Let's see, which other one did I do? This one and this bottom one, okay? And then I hit the copy again, and it says I'm going to copy my 2 funding source lines from line 130 to these 4 other lines that I did. And then it says, do you want to merge them with any distributions that are already there or replace? I'm just going to hit replace, doesn't matter. Okay, so now you'll notice it just did that, and you'll notice that all my lines now are blue, right? So this one, if I go look at the distribution on this one, it's 40 and 60, just like my other guy. If I go look at this one, distribution is 40 and 60, just like my other guy. Okay, so I do that. Maybe I modify some specific lines. Maybe I have another phase. Who knows? But now, so I could have a completely different distribution on different lines. Doesn't matter. I also may have set some different things here. I can check a box that says whether it's subject to sales tax, retention, whether it's a set amount where we're saying for whatever reason this is not a biddable amount. This is not up for discussion with the contractor. Okay, so I got a $58,000 bike and safety improvement project that has some fencing and some lighting and some other things. Okay, so now if I go to my cost distribution, now this says, okay, out of that contract, out of the funding sources that I just defined on these different lines, what did I end up with total, right? So Federal Highway Safety Improvement Plan ended up with 23,500, and if I go to the next one, tribal funding ended up with 35,250. Okay, 40%, 60%. So whatever little ups and downs I put in there, that's where I'm going to end up. And so now all this page is doing is saying, okay, I've summed up all the junk from all these other grids and all the funding sources that you entered. Oh, and also we have an import from a formatted Excel spreadsheet option here if you want to pull in something you did on a spreadsheet or something like that. It has to be formatted exactly right, but we can import it if you prefer to work on a spreadsheet. So in the cost distribution, I have to now tell WinCAMS when you pay on behalf of the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Plan, where does it come from? Okay. So that could be broken down in multiple parts, but I'm going to pick a budget, right? So when we get money or when we're planning to get money from the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, we are going to get the, like when we pay a bill and we tell finance to pay a bill, it's going to come out of this budget, okay? And then again, we can do the percent or the fixed cost. Okay, so I'm just going to pick the one budget, and then I'm going to go to my next tribal funding. It's also red, so that one, when we pay for tribal funding, we're going to go out of a different budget. And for my purposes, I don't actually care what the budget is, but I need some budget, and I'm going to use percent, and I'm not going to break it down any further. And it turns blue as well, and I can see that there are no others. Okay, so now I go to my summary. It says click the button to calculate the summary information, and it runs through and does its calculations. This is a much larger contract. Even though most of the lines are 0, this is a much larger contract than I would normally do in a demo with 74 lines. Okay, so we would get all these greens. So it basically wants to make sure that everything is lined up. So our estimate total is 58,750. So I didn't put any other direct or indirect in, but I've got 58,750. The lines match that, and our distribution matches that, and the status is okay. And then our funding source breakdown is Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, 23,500, tribal funding, 32,250, totals 58,750. So that matches and we're okay. Then from the funding sources, we are paying out of two budgets to the tune of these two numbers, 58,750. So if any of those didn't match, we would not be okay. And it would show one of these boxes would end up red, and then we'd be like, oh, I didn't fully distribute my budgets, or I forgot to go into here and I forgot one of my funding sources, you know. And you can see that if I say, okay, how about they'll pay 90%, right? Now I go back to my summary, and now what I should see is green, 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 however 4 or 5 greens, and then the bottom one should be red. And so that the bottom one, okay, that's what I find. So it's saying you have 58,700, your contract is 58,000, these are 0, that's fine. You've got funding sources for 58,750, but you've only got budgeting set up for 55,000. So it says that's not good. So then I would go back to here and I'd say, this one looks okay, it's blue. Let's go to our next funding source. Oh, that's because it's 90%. Maybe I add another budget in here with 10% or with a fixed cost for the remainder. In my case, I'm just going to say 100%, and I should be good now. Let it recalculate. 74 items, most of which are 0. Okay, now they're all green. So it's basically saying this, this is set up correctly. Now I can, this is disadvantaged, underrepresented and disadvantaged business enterprises, right? So you can, I never really understand this, but there's some things that you have to do where you have to identify subcontractable amounts for underrepresented or disadvantaged business enterprises. This is your status tab, unlimited comments and notes. You can have photos. This is where we're going to do the project, etc. Addenda are if you need to, if you actually lock in this estimate and then you need to kind of change the estimate before, you know, start working with contractors perhaps, but before the award, you need to figure something else out with the estimate. So you can do there's an option to create an addenda. So it's like a change order for an estimate. Work days, you can set this up at in the estimate time. Like, you know, a lot of people wait until the contract to set this up, but you say, okay, we're going to start on 9/1/21, and we think this project is going to take 35 days, right? And then we say build our calendar, 5-day work week. There you go. Now we've got a calendar, and then we can start, and we can say, okay, this is a Sunday, so it doesn't count as a day. And then we say, you know, and then this will flow through to our contract. Linked files, just like you're used to in the rest of WinCAMS, you can drag and drop a file onto here if it's a, I have no idea if it's a notice of a community meeting to talk about the project, or if it's a some sort of environmental impact survey study, whatever might go with this to describe the project. Okay. So now we have this estimate, and we believe that as engineers, we believe it's going to cost $58,000. Okay. Now, many times people say, well, what if we did it differently? What if we used different materials? What if we made it longer, shorter, wider, deeper, right? What if we put more bells and whistles? What if we made it out of concrete instead of asphalt? Okay. So then what you could do is you could copy this estimate, and make it the same project, even the same date, with a new sequence number, right? And then you can say, copy all the phases, copy all the line items, copy all these, copy the same funding source distribution, and I'm gonna go manipulate it. And so I can kind of build different, different plans, okay? Mark, that's great. Oh, good. Okay, it's the same Mark. I was gonna say, do we have 3 Marks asking questions in a row? So Mark asks if holidays are manually entered or are there standard holidays. So you set up the holidays at the beginning of the year. So if we go into the settings here, holidays and control settings, you've got your dates here, and so you just set those up once. I didn't put in any holidays, but whichever holidays for that year make sense, you can put them in, and then we will know that when we build the calendar. And then we also have these control settings about how to number lines, what the SI number for liquidated damages are, here's the label used for the standard phase, and then whether we allow you to overpay major line items and some things and some stuff about UDBE. So you would set up your holidays. So if I say, okay, let's see here, 09, 06/21 is Labor Day. Okay, so then if I go back to my project estimate and I go to the work days and I rebuild it, what did I do here? Sunday. Oh. I need to, let me clear this, build. Hold on a second. Let me get this to refresh itself. How do I, let's see. It thinks it already knows it already loaded all the holidays and there weren't any. So, but it should know that there's a holiday on Labor Day because I put that in. Okay, so here is my estimate. Bike path, work days, clear. Why doesn't it recognize? Oh, wait, hold on. There we go. Okay, so it knows that it's Labor Day, and it knows that's a 0, right? And so if I had looked at where did the project end before, it would have ended on the 19th, and now it ends on the 21st, right? And if I go in, we're going to get to this later, this is how you do your daily work journals and stuff, but I can say this doesn't count as a day, and I can make the status of some random day unworkable due to weather, unworkable due to other, you know, frankly, I could put in my holidays. You could, if you want to, you don't have to have us know your holidays. I mean, why not? But if you want to just look at it and say, okay, that's going to be a holiday, or we're going to suspend the project for that, or we're going to take time off because unworkable due to fires or whatever, okay? And then it will extend your project longer. Okay, so basically we create as many estimates as we need for our bike path, and then we eventually decide on one of them through meetings or our own whatever. We go in here and we set as the official estimate. Okay, so I'm going to make this particular one. So you'll see here that you know, this one has, this project has, it looks like it has more than one, but the one that turns green is the official estimate, and it's green up there. Okay, so now our next step is generating a bid and soliciting a contractor response. Okay, so now we've got our estimate. We think it's going to cost around $58,000. We go back and we basically just go down. I'm not going to do any addenda, but if I needed to change the estimate with an official form, I could do that. So now I create a bid. And the bid could actually include multiple projects in it, okay? That is fine. So I'm going to, it auto numbers the bid, and then I say, you can see here I've got a grid of projects. So, so it's showing, this is a list of the projects that have an official estimate, right? So I think this is the one I was doing. Yeah, bike and safety improvement. So now as soon as I add this project, I could add other projects too. If there's, I'm asking people to bid on some sort of a combination, that's fine. Then I go to the schedule, there's the schedule. You'll notice this is not a grid, right? This is not for typing in. This is just the schedule of, and it would have projects and phases listed here if I had multiple phases, multiple projects. So here's all my bid item numbers, and you recognize that I've filled some of these out, right? Okay, so now we've created this bid, okay? And now our next thing is to solicit contractor responses. So there's a tabulation that, and right now I have no responses, so I just put in my, so I only have one column for my estimate. Plan holders, these are people that maybe I gave plans to. So this gets a little bit out in the real world now. Some people say, oh, we don't deal with that. We just create a bid packet, and then we send it off to a print shop, and then the people go into the print shop and buy a bid packet. Other places, they come up to your front desk and you hand them a bid packet, and you are welcome to say, okay, contractor Biondi Paving took a bid packet, and contractor Lamont Construction took a bid packet, and Thunder Mountain Enterprises took a bid packet. Okay, so these are plan holders that we keep track of. How do we know about these contractors? There is as always in WinCAMS, there's a source program for setting up contractors, because these may or may not be vendors, right? So you can link them to a vendor code in our direct charges module, but you don't have to. They may not yet be a vendor. And they may or may not be a disadvantaged business as well. Okay, so anybody comes in, you go and you create if you want, you can create a contractor number for them. We don't need all this information about them necessarily, but it's nice to have. So I don't know, I always imagine, okay, we get a list here of people that take in plans, and then we see whether they responded. If they haven't responded, maybe we call them and say, are you, the deadline's coming, do you want to respond? I don't know if you do that or not. Okay, so now that's the bid. Now we go back to we go to the next step, contractor responses. Okay, Mark, you use an online bid platform. So that's where, so for that, you would basically, you would use I don't know how if you have to manually enter it, or if they have like an upload, we can help you with that. But what we would do is say like, okay, I'm going to do a bid schedule and tabulation report. And so then what I want to do here is run this report. And so I'm going to say the original bid schedule, and I'm going to pick my bid. I guess I didn't give it a description. So I'm going to pick my single bid here, and I'm going to run my report. Okay, so here is a paper bid schedule. This says, here's the project, here's phase 1 general, and here's all those 74 line items, right? And so anywhere from, I'm going to print this out and hand this to someone, and they are going to the contractors are going to write their unit cost in there if they want, or I can push it to Excel, or push it to Excel specifically formatted for contractor responses, meaning that if the contractor puts in their responses in the exact format that we give them the Excel file, then we can load it back in from Excel. Or you could maybe upload this Excel file or a PDF of this or something to your online bid platform. I don't know. This is one of those places where you'd have to figure out, okay, how do I interact with the real world? Because these contractors are not WinCAMS users and we wouldn't want to let them into this module anyway, right? But basically the point is that what they see is these are the line items, here are the quantities and the units of measure, and no unit costs are shown, okay? So we give them their bid schedule, or we send it to the print shop, or we use the online bid platform, as you said. And then the next step is they come back, hopefully, and we get contractor responses. Okay. So contractor responses. So we already created our bid number. So you'll notice that there is no add button here because we can only work with existing bids. So I'm going to go to the last one because I happen to know that it's here, right? And I see that it's got one project on it, and all we've got is an estimate of $58,750. So then I get a bid, right? And I say, well, I happen to know that. So I had my plan holders, right? So I want them to match. I don't have to put in my plan holders, but I did. So I've got Biondi, and I've got Le Mans, and I've got Thunder. Okay, so I've got 3 contractors that are responding. Okay, so now I highlight Biondi and I go to the contract page, and here again is my 74 contract items, and the quantities that I put in and the units of measure, and the unit cost is blank. Okay, so now now there's a button here to load it from a spreadsheet. So I could have sent them a spreadsheet or uploaded a spreadsheet to my online bid platform that they fill out and then they return to me, or I can, I mean, everybody's different. I mean, I don't know how we get these. I don't remember what my amounts were, so I am going to just put in, you know, this is the contractor bid for Biondi paving. So I'm going to say, they said $95 here, and here they said $143. And on my last line item, I've never done this with so many blank line items, by the way, but my last line item is going, they're going to bid $97. And this one they're going to bid $3,000. Okay, so now we see that their bid is $89,240, and then I go back and now I get my bid from Le Mans. When I highlight Le Mans, now my contract page says for Le Mans, and if I had different phases and different projects, I could pick them up here and show the different line items. Here again, I don't remember, so I'm going to say $76 unit cost. This one's going to be $110. And you notice that the colors mean whether they are over or under our estimate. Okay, $88. No, let's do $48. Okay, and the last one, they're going to say 5,000. So there's over, under, or right on. I think red is they're over our estimate, blue is they're under our estimate, and black is they exactly matched our estimate. And if I had made any of them non-bid items, fixed amount, then I wouldn't be able to update that. Okay, so my last contractor is Thunder, contractor bid for Thunder Mountain. And they are going to go $56 here, and $94 here, and $60 there, and their temporary lighting system is going to be $7,500. Okay, so now I can quickly see that the low bid is 56,100. The high bid is 89,240, and my estimate is 58,750. And the one I have highlighted here is 60,320. So it's pretty close. Okay. So now I go back to my report, and instead of running a bid schedule, I run a bid tabulation. Right? And I can say show if I have it set to show the 7 lowest bid responses. I'm already selected on the right bid, so I'm just gonna do this. All right, so now this style, this is a bid tabulation. This says for this bid, which I didn't name, for this bike path project for the general phase, here's our quantity, unit cost, SI number, our unit cost, right? And then here's Le Mans Construction's unit cost and their total amount for each. Here's Thunder Mountain's unit cost and total amount. And then there's Biondi Paving's unit cost, and I can't get to total amount because I have too many columns in here. So I'm gonna take out, well, for now, I'll just take out the estimate stuff. No, that's not what I want. I'll take out the item number, maybe that'll help. Still too wide. See what happens if I can push it to Excel. Okay, so there we go. So here's our totals, right? And here's our Beyond, or Le Mans is at 56,000, and Biondi's at 89,000, and Thunder is at 60,000. Now, I've been to many meetings with many engineers, and they say, that's awesome. We're always going to take this lowest one. So it's cool that you show us that, but we're just going to take the lowest one. That's up to you, but we're going to show it to you. And so this is line item by line item. We also have a summary that just shows the sum, this, you know, high level, you know, like we're not digging into how they got to 89, 56, and 60. And then we also, let's see, here's a slightly different style. There we go. Okay, so this does it in instead of across, this does it vertically. So it says, okay, for this bid, here's Le Mans' bid and Le Mans' bottom line. I wonder why there's no totals there. And then here's Thunder's bid, and then here is Biondi's bid. Okay, and so so that's the response review report. Okay, so now we basically look through all those and make our decision, and I'll just go with what people have told me. They are going to go with the Le Mans, because Le Mans was the cheapest, the least expensive, I should say. Okay, so Le Mans is the least expensive. So now I am going to award the contract, and I'm going to give it a contract number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is a fairly big contract, 74 line items. So it's working hard. Okay, contract was created successfully. Okay, and I also have a copy to estimate button if I want to take a contractor's bid and copy it to a new estimate. Like for instance, maybe we get all these bids and they're all too high. And so maybe, or we want to do something new, and instead of starting from our own estimate, we want to start from what a contractor bid, because maybe that's more accurate than our estimate. But maybe they're all all too high. So we want to take what they did and then modify it, go back to the drawing board and see if we can say, given the unit costs that these contractors gave us, I want to change the scope of the project, right? Okay, so now I should be able to go to the contract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. Okay. And it's this little contract needs to be recalculated. So let me recalculate it. That's it. When you first create the contract from awarding the bid, it does want us to recalculate it. Okay, so now this contract looks a lot like the estimate, but it's now changed to fit Lamont Construction's bid. Okay, so it's now at 56,100. It's got the same project numbers. It's got a contractor now. Now I can fill in legal descriptions, different things. Anything that I had put into the estimate would already be here, right? And now if I look at the detail lines, right, then my bid item numbers now have Lamont Construction's amounts, not my amounts anymore. Okay, and the cost distribution is now following the same logic that I set up for who's paying for it and how and where, but the amounts are changed so they fit this new 56,000, not the 59,000 that I had bid or whatever. Okay, and so now this is the detailed contract that I can work with here in the engineering module, but I also, you can see here that there's an AP contract number. So, you know, if you pay your bills through WinCAMS or you use invoices in WinCAMS, which most of our clients do, then you can also post this contract and it will create an encumbrance document in the direct charges module, right? So this is like a very detailed background setup for the encumbrance document needs to know very little. The encumbrance document really only needs to know this right here, 22,000 from this budget and 33,000 from that budget, and that is it. There is nothing more that this needs to be all this stuff, this detail of what goes into the work is not relevant to the encumbrance document. If we want to encumber that, now that we've signed the contract with Lamont Construction, we don't need to know like all the nitty gritty of what they're doing in order to pay them. Okay, we will need to do it to pay them to do a progress payment. We will need to know the nitty gritty of what they're doing in the engineering module, but as far as finance goes and accounting, it's just an amount, right? So let's see here. I need to make this contract official. So we just want to make sure that you got it signed and you believe it's official, so it turns green. Okay, so we've got projected actual costs. We've got the detail lines of the contract, and we've got a similar summary here just to check that we did similar to what we did in the estimate. And again, like I said in the beginning of the webinar, we don't have to do that whole estimate rigmarole and the contractor responses and the bid and all that. If we want to, we could just hit plus in the contracts module or contract screen and just start typing in our contract if you want to, but I like to go all the way through the process. So you can see here that in our summary, we've got everything lined up. We've distributed it. We've got a funding source. Our contract total is 56. Our funding sources are 56, and our budget distribution is 56. Okay, we can list off contingencies here, and now we've got our work day. So now we want to put in. We want to put in our actual start date. So we've agreed with them that they're going to start 09/05/21, and they say it's going to be 42 days. Okay, and let me clear this. Rebuild my, okay, there we go. So now I've got my calendar. There's my Labor Day. I just picked a date. I have them starting on a Sunday and then immediately having a Labor Day. I don't know why I did that. Okay, and then I've got notes and photos. If there were photos that were in the estimate, they would have come forward. These are payments that are going to hit this contract. Change orders can be entered, and then our traditional linked files if you have the actual contract that got signed or a PDF or whatever. You notice here that our contract says 56,100. We have 0 change orders. Our work days are 42. We have no changes to the work schedule, right? And in our retention and our payments and our balance here, okay? So now we go to the section, basically I call it working the contract, okay? So now we have a contract, and we'd probably post the contract. Well, we would post the contract. We wouldn't probably post it. So we go to posting, and we say post contracts. And this will lock the contract into place, and it will also potentially create AP contracts, right? Meaning create an encumbrance document. And so you can select on a managing engineer or a contractor, or you can just select on your contract number. So you'll notice that it's gonna hit a couple of budgets and create an encumbrance document and encumber the project and things like that. So I write my audit trails. This is creating a $30,000 or $56,000 encumbrance that's going to reference 2 budgets, right? Okay, so now I should have an encumbrance document, which is in the, if I check that box, I have an encumbrance document that's in the payables or direct charges module of WinCAMS for that total. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is. So here is my my encumbrance document for $56,100, Le Mans Construction, and you can see here we don't have 74 line items, we have 2, 33,000 and 22,000 for 2 different budgets, and they're going to encumber this project when I post it. So some of you already use our encumbrance documents, and they and you encumber they encumber the project and the budget, saying, you know, saying I haven't spent this yet, but I'm planning to spend it, and so I don't want to act like I have that money on hand. Okay, so now I want to work what I call working the contract, and the main ways we do that are through filling out our daily work journal, right? So we say, okay, you know, started work, I don't know whether you want to put in weather, you know, couldn't work, and the weather was rainy, and so we set that to a 0, right? You'll notice now that we have only 41 work days, and we have 42. So if we say build, you'll notice that it added another one at the bottom, right? It didn't get rid of my, so when we take away work days, we can tell it'll add one at the bottom. I don't know, maybe you say, okay, we couldn't work this day, but the contractor agreed to work Saturday, so we turn Saturday into a work day. So we could do that, okay? And then we have the ability to print a weekly statement of working days. 9/5 through 9/11 sounds good. So this is a weekly statement of working days that says, you know, workable days, what we did. Okay, Wednesday was rainy, so it didn't have any work. So in this 7-day period, we had 3 workable days, right? And our total to date, and who the contractor is, and who you are, and various things. Summary of you know, on Tuesday we started work, on Wednesday we couldn't work, whatever. And if you do those things, if you don't do those things, then I wouldn't worry about it. So that's one thing, is that we manage our work days. Then we can also do delivery tickets and accomplishments. There they are. So delivery tickets, as you probably know, are receipts for deliveries of materials on hand, or things like that, or indications of completion of some of the items. So you'll notice when I pick my contract number, then I've got all my bid items here, right? So then I say, okay, I remember that one of my bid items, this is a little bit odd, I did this in a different way, where I have all these bid items that do not have, that don't have any quantities. So I'm having to find, so it says, okay, temporary lighting, it was a lump sum at $5,000. And so I can say, were there deliveries on this, or were there accomplishments? Did we agree that some amount was accomplished? And we can then use that to load into our, we should be able to use that. So if I say, okay, accomplishment, the current accomplished quantity is 1, right? Okay, and it was entered by me, checked by me, whatever, okay? So now one bid item has an accomplishment, and I could say, if there was something else that was like measured in tons, I think we did have one that was measured in tons. It was wood fence. Yeah, there we go, 600 linear feet. So maybe, I don't know if I would track it by the delivery of the wood, or if I would track it again by accomplishments. So I say ticket number XYZ, and who was the hauler, and then they delivered 200 quantity, right? And so they've delivered 9,600 worth, okay? So I can fill those out if I want. And then what this is all leading to is a progress payment, right? So in the payment, what we might want to do, I can just enter the payment directly here, that's fine, or I can go into estimates, bids, and contracts reports, and I've got a payment estimate worksheet. Okay, and there's a, so let me pick my contract. Okay, and then this says, do you want to show the total paid quantity or the current paid quantity? Meaning, do you like to think of it as you work your way through this contract? Do you like to talk about the total they've done, the contractor has done on each line item, or do you want to talk about, well, I know that since last time we met, you've done another 150 tons or 150 feet or whatever. Okay, so I'll say I'm going to stick with total paid, and then if I run this report, this worksheet. Okay, so this shows each of the line items and what has already been paid for, and what has been paid for as far as materials on hand, and then the total, So I could you could walk around with a spreadsheet, I mean, with a clipboard, and write on this. Okay, we agreed with the contract that you know, we've paid them for 0, and they're supposed to do a total of 250 pulverizing and moving road structures. We agreed that they did 100. Okay, so this is your little worksheet, and then you can go back into here, and you have the ability to import from a formatted spreadsheet, I believe here, or you can import from delivery tickets. We could try that. Sounds like fun. Get to the right contract. Wasn't my contract? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't need to go. I'm on the, so I want to create a payment and I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And as soon as it knows, it automatically numbers the payment. First, it's going to build my line items, but it says payment number 1 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's all my line items. It tells me the quantity that was in the contract and how much has already been paid. And now I can put in either the total, right? So if let's say I already paid 100, it would say contract quantity 250, prior paid quantity 100. Then I can put in 125, meaning that we're going to pay for another 25, or I can just put in 25 is what I want to pay them now, right? And it has the prior paid amounts and all that stuff. Okay, so I can just manually enter here. If I could get my cursor to move, let's see here what's going on. There we go. Or I should be able to, for whatever reason, delivery tickets. I can't recall why this isn't ready. There's something I probably left out on this delivery tickets post number. What am I forgetting? I can't remember. Anyway, there's a way to pull in from delivery tickets. There's a way to pull in from a formatted spreadsheet, or I can just go in here and say, I want to pay for 100 of this and 10 of this and 200 of that, and you know, I'm going to pay for all of this, I guess. Okay, so now I can see that my payment has built up to $23,300, and now I should be able to run another report that's called a preliminary edit. And I select my contract. Okay, and so this tells me what I just put in to do. Okay, I want to pay, you know, I want to estimate, I want to pay this much, and the percent completion of each line item, and how we get to our 23.3, right? So the overall percent completion of the contract is here, and then the budget account summary, right? So for each of these things that I said I was going to pay, where is it coming out of? How is this 23,000 broken down? And I say, and then is there any retention? And what's the net payment? 23.3. And then I say, yeah, that looks good. I like that. And then perhaps, I don't know if everyone does this, but you also might go run what's called a final pay sheet. And this is literally a form saying, this is what I want to pay, and we're going to sign it, right? So let's go find our contract number again. And I believe this is a form, so it's going to want to print to, okay, it's going to print to XPS, so that's kind of like PDF. It's going to want to print to the printer. And it's going to print two things. Okay, So now let's go take a look at it. Pay sheet 2, where is, oops, clean screen, sorry. Let me find my desktop here. Pay, one moment, pay sheet and pay sheet 2. Okay, so here is the pay sheet. Why can't they see my screen? Okay, so here is the pay sheet saying, here are the, I told it to leave out the blank line items, right? So I checked the box, don't print 0 line amounts, and I can set, and I told it to only do 2 signature boxes of submitted and approved by the contractor, and I could put in names and titles and things. So here is my first page of my pay sheet, saying this is what my contract quantities are and amounts, and this is my estimated payment, and this is my cumulative totals so far. And then my pay sheet 2 is saying we're going to pay it, this is our cost distribution, this is where we're going to pay it out of. Current period, total to date, and then what we're going to pay the contractor, what our retention is, letter of credit, blah, 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 contract completion percentage 41.53, and then we want the contractor to sign it and our contract administrator to sign it, and then we are ready to pay them, okay? And so then however you want to pay them, you have this payment, and we marked the auditor status because we printed the thing, right? And then if we want to go post it, we could post it and create an AP invoice in WinCAMS, right? And that would, then whatever you do with invoices now, if you print claim forms, voucher forms, if you interface to your auditor, you know, it will just be those 2 lines, pay 13,000 out of this one budget and 22,000 out of this other budget, and the payment is ready to go out. Okay, and so then the payment comes back and hits the contract as well, right? And when we, well, actually, I guess I could. So let's post it. Why not? Post payments. I will pick my contract. Something's not ready in my payment. What is not ready in my payment? Must be missing something. Post payments. I checked create invoice, contract include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Okay, so it's ready to post this. I don't really need to write my audit trails. I'll just let it post. It's updating contracts and creating invoices. So now if we go back to the contract, you can see here it's filled in the total paid quantities of the line items that I paid and the percent paid and the percent remaining, right? And these are based on the numbers that I put in, right, that I wanted to pay, that I agreed with the contractor that they had completed this amount of work. So if I go to the bottom one, I should expect to see 100%, right? Because I put in the full amount, the full one quantity. And you also notice that there's an AP contract number here. So we should have we should have an invoice now in the accounts payable system, or direct charges as we call it. That is going to be able to post the payment against the project, post the charge against the project. There we go. So it numbered at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got the right. It knows that Lamont Construction is the contractor or vendor. This is the total 23,000, and it broke it down into these two budgets, right? And so now, just as though you had entered it manually, it's going to post a charge to this project, or two charges, charge to these two budgets. It knows about this purchase order, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will when the invoice posts, it will unencumber or expend against that encumbrance, right? The same thing that you probably do even if you don't use the engineering module. Okay, so and then what oftentimes happens in any sort of construction or contract or project like that is that the project changes, grows, shrinks, goes sideways. So there are change orders. That you can enter because the contract is already posted and we don't want to just go changing it. You saw in those settings that you can overpay some line items and you can set, you can set it to 0 and say you can't overpay them, but we don't mind if whatever your personal, your organizational rules are. So if I go here and I say I want to do a change order because I met with the contractor and we realized that we need something else or something got bigger, right? So then I say contract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've got line items. And similar to an encumbrance adjustment in WinCAMS, we've got an upper grid that says adjust existing line items, a lower grid that says create completely new line items, right? So we need to do, and we found we need to do an environmental impact, or we decided that we needed to make something bigger. So I can hit plus here and say I'm going to pick. These are the existing line items in the contract, right? So we need to do some removal of, and the original quantity was 0. I'm going to make the new quantity this, or I could change the unit cost, right? And these would post and update the contract so that then the contract would have a change order amount, right? So I can see the progress of the contract. And also, by the way, on our payments, when I get to the end of the contract, I can make it a final payment here that says this is the end of the contract, even if we don't get to the end of the money. Okay. What else can this module do? I think that might be about it. We've added some different things here. You can set up your units of measure custom or use ours. Of course, you can set up all your funding sources. We've got this, what is this? Payment and SI number cross-reference. What does this mean? Let's see here. So this, so this is saying for this contract, if we go to our wood fence, then we can see the payments, the list of payments for that line item, right? Sort of breaking it down a different way within this contract. And contract daily report. I don't even know if I've used that before. Oh, okay. This is something. Right, I remember this. This is much more detail on the daily report of how many hours were worked, temperatures, photos, what number of people, resources, materials, different things. They don't do anything from our perspective, but they you know, if you're doing this somewhere else, you might as well do it here. So, you know, worked hard, temperature minimum was 76 and the maximum was 92. And then in detail lines, you know, we had Le Mans and 6 people, and we had 1 idle hour, and we can put in people's names, all that stuff, right? And then I wonder what we have here. This is supposed to be our daily report, but it's not showing me anything. Oh, the bid items that were worked on that day, that kind of thing. If you want, there's no, it's not that we're trying to get people to do this. It's that our clients have said we have to do this, and so they want it linked. They want to be able to enter contract daily reports, right? I don't know why my form. Maybe I don't have a form a form format. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for that module that I can think of. Yeah. So it's a tool for estimating, soliciting bids, or creating bids, soliciting contractor responses, and then working the contract. So and then linking that into our payables system with encumbrances and invoices in much more detail, and funding sources in much more detail. So as always, if you have any suggestions or questions about this in your specific area, can the subcontractors be tracked also? I believe so. Let me think here. Where do we have references, workdays? I saw subcontractors somewhere. So in the estimates, we have this. You can say which are subcontractable. I don't know how that, right? So you've got, I don't quite understand this. Okay, so you determine the subcontractable items. Okay, this is, I guess, for the amount of the subcontractable items, and the percent for a bid item number. So if I define an SI number as UDBE eligible or DBE eligible, then it'll show, and then I use it on the contract, it'll show up here, and it'll tell me the amount of my subcontracts. Now, how do I get to, I'm not sure if we track the subcontractors. I don't see that in here. References, workdays, notes. No, so it doesn't look like we track the subcontractors. So I guess what you'd want to do is, I mean, if you were using this heavily and you wanted to track those subcontractors, we would add a tab here for subcontractors. And I guess I'd want to know, like, what are you tracking about them? Is it just that they exist, or what they're specifically doing, or how much you're paying towards them, that kind of stuff. But I don't see a subcontractor tab or section. You can always put it in the notes, of course, but if you actually want a grid that says, I want to know what these subcontractors did, we could definitely add that. Okay. Oh, there we go. So there's another question that says, prior to going to bid, we generated an in-house engineer's estimate that includes a contingency amount for each standard item. Is this possible in the module? We also add inflation at the bottom of the estimate that compounds based on the number of years until project construction. Okay, so the contingencies are right here with, you know, what the amounts are and what it takes to, so I don't think we keep track of them by item. We keep track of them for the entire contract. I don't see that we are tracking contingencies by item. No, I don't think so. So the contingencies, you manage them yourself, so you can put them in here and describe them, but then when they want to get released, that's up to you to release them. And then the inflation, you could create an SI number for inflation, put in a line item here, but you would have to calculate that yourself. Right? It wouldn't keep growing because you delayed the project or whatever. So you'd say, okay, project's not going to start for 2 years. We think there's going to be 6% inflation. So then you would put in that amount. Now, what I would think more, if we wanted to tackle that feature, what we would want to do is we'd want to have like a inflation update or something, an inflation posting, and you would say, okay, you know, I want to, I would presume that what you want to do is bump up the unit cost of every single line item. And if that's the standard, if you say I'm going to bump up the unit cost of every line item by 2%, then you could do that, and we could bump them all up. But in my experience, the contractor has to agree to that, and you might bump up certain line items and not other line items, and so it starts to turn into a change order basically. So. But if that's something you want to add, you know, you guys get much more deeply into this than I do, and so I love the suggestions about, you know, what it could do and making it better, whether it's a change order or just a request for our guys to make it better. You know, this is what we do, is we try to make it better. So. So send me an email if that's important to you, or if you know, describing how you do it, and then we can try to see about getting it into the software if possible. So, okay, you have my email, ayren@cascadegovsoftware.com, and thanks for attending. This will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel, the WinCAMS channel, and on our website. And you'll hear from me about the next webinar in our ongoing series. Thanks for everybody. Have a great day.